How you doing? It's Scott and John from T is for Tactical, and today we're going to talk about loading and unloading the AR type rifle, and what our goal is going to be. If you saw any of my previous videos or any of our previous thoughts, when it comes down to loading, what we're after is economizing the loading process. In other words, getting the rifle loaded in the shortest amount of time possible, but also not sacrificing any reliability. Now, I'll say this. I have quite a bit of experience with the AR15 type rifle, and most of the malfunctions come from an operator-induced malfunction. And again, what our goal is, especially if you're using a firearm and an AR15 for a self-defense purpose, is that firearm has got to go bang. All right, that firearm has got to go off. So let's start with a standardized loading procedure, and we'll work our way into some other things. So I'm going to start first of all with the magazine. Right, and if you notice, the AR type rifle has a dual stack magazine, which basically means that you can see two rounds in it at the same time. It seats the magazine or seats the bullets next to each other. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that I grab the magazine in a correct way, but most importantly, I'm going to see that the top round on this firearm, the round that's on the top of the magazine, is on the right. Okay, it's on my right. Okay. Next thing I'll do is I'll make sure I'll grab my gun, I'll grab my AR, and as I grab my AR, I'm going to check and see that it's in the condition that I hope that I left it in, and that's with the bolt back. Okay, and when I verify that that bolt is back, what I'm basically doing is I'm coming to the understanding that the gun's got to be loaded. Okay, if the bolt's forward, you don't know. I mean, and I will say this, that there is a lot of safety manuals and a lot of philosophies that you always treat every gun as if it's loaded. And I don't disagree with that, but I like to take things a step further. And I like to say, well, verify the condition of your firearm. Don't treat every gun as if it's loaded and make an assumption on it, okay? Because in a self-defense situation, it may not be there for you. And obviously, if you, not to be facetious or go overboard, but if you treat every gun as if it's loaded, you're not going to dry fire the gun, you're not going to handle the gun, you're not going to clean the gun, you're not going to do all those things. So don't develop an unhealthy fear of firearms. Really what it takes is developing skill sets and awareness so that you know how to unload and clear that firearm properly. All right. So the first thing, again, that I'm doing is I'm making sure that there's not a round in the chamber, that the bolt is locked back, right? And if you notice, when I grip the gun, or when I put my hand, especially my shooting hand on the gun, I'm finding my shooting grip, all right? Some people call this the master grip. I just call it your shooting grip. And, reason being is you might have to shoot very rapidly or very quickly, and you don't want to deviate from that. The other thing that happens, the other byproduct when you adopt a standardized grip, your shooting grip on the gun, is it helps you steer the muzzle and control the gun, which is very important, okay? This allows you to be accountable to exactly where the muzzle's at, and keep everybody safe, okay? So let's go back to our whole loading procedure. As soon as I find the gun, like I say, I'm going to find my shooting grip. I'm going to start with the bolt lock back. I'm going to find my magazine grip, and as I find my magazine grip, I put my little finger underneath the magazine. This allows me to do two things: A, steer the gun correctly, and also verify that the magazine is in the right direction, the correct direction for loading. I can actually feel the curvature to the magazine, and again, that helps me. All right, so as I load, I'm going to bring the gun up here into my workspace, right? And I'm going to insert the magazine into the magazine well. I feel it click, right? As I insert it, and I feel it click most particularly with my finger because it's next to the magazine release button. All right, so as I insert the magazine, I can hear it click, and I can feel it click, right? And that gives me a little bit of self-confidence or security, so to speak, right? To know that the gun is loaded. But I'm going to go a step further. I'm going to tug the magazine, right? And I tug the magazine and make sure it doesn't come back out again. The next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to reach up with my non-shooting hand thumb from this position here, and I'm just going to roll my hand up, right? And I'm going to close the bolt, right? And this allows me, again, to use minimal hand movements by keeping my hands just in this general area. Now, I don't know for sure if I have a round in the chamber. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to back that magazine out, and I'm going to look, and I'm going to see that I have a round on the top is now on the left, right? So I know that round that was in there, remember it was on the right, that round is now in the chamber, right? So if this is a live round, then the gun would go bang, right? Next thing I'll do is I'll insert the magazine, I'll give it a tug, give it a nice firm tug and make sure it's seated. Again, these are the most two common errors as far as a whole loading procedure that will cause an operator-induced malfunction. Now, if I want to, if I have time, I can hit the forward assist. I can hit this little resets that's on the bolt and push that forward. Mainly what I like to do is just take a visual check and make sure that bolt is all the way forward. Last thing that I'll do is I'll reach up and I'll close the dust cover. Okay, dust cover is there to keep dust out of the gun, all right? Another good point is if you're working with a team, on the SWAT team, a philosophy that we would have is that if we're on a wooded terrain search and we saw or we heard a discharge, if I was a team leader or whoever the team leader was, we could take a look down the line and we could see if the dust cover was open. We knew who shot. We know where. That gives an indication of where we need to address the situation, and it gives us a little bit better decision-making capabilities and awareness capabilities. Okay, so my gun is loaded and I'm ready to go. One thing I'm going to talk about here, and I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, but one thing I'm going to talk to you about, and I'll give you a nice tidbit, is that when I'm running the gun and working with the gun, if you notice, I keep my shooting thumb up against the safety. And what I'm doing here is I'm verifying the position of safety, right? So I always know with the position of safety by my grip. And this is very important because I don't want the safety to slow me down, right? And I don't want to run without the safety because the gun's in single action, right? If I were able to split the receiver halves on you and show you that, the hammer will be back, the gun's in single action. So a single action gun, we incorporate the use of the safety. So the whole idea of the philosophy of the safety is that when the gun comes up, the safety comes off. When the gun comes down, the safety comes back on again. Gun up, safety off, gun down, safety on. Gun up, safety off, gun down, safety back on again. Okay? So the use of a safety is almost predicated upon the use of force, right? So if the bad guy presents a threat, or if there's a bad guy that presents a threat and I need to, to do something, right? The safety is going to come off. If he no longer presents a threat, gives up, runs away, whatever the case may be, I'm moving and going on to another location, I'm engaging or putting the safety back on again, okay? So don't neglect the use of the safety and incorporate the use of the safety in with your skill sets, okay? We don't want to operator-induced malfunctions. You will never get your time back from a malfunction with the gun. So do your very, very best to eliminate them. You always want that gun to go bang when it needs to go bang, okay? All right, so we talked about our whole loading process. Let's talk about our unloading process, all right? Again, muzzle's in a safe direction, 0 chance of personal injury if the gun were to go off, and minimal property damage, all right? So the first thing I'm going to do is, again, making sure that the safety is on, right? I take the magazine out. I'm going to take the working parts back. Now, I see a lot of guys, they'll pull back on the charging handle, but they fail to anchor the bolt, or I'm sorry, the buttstock into the shoulder. Remember, you have a buffer tube spring that's in here that provides tension on the bolt, but you have to overcome that tension in order to get the bolt back. So they'll do something like this, and they'll wrestle around with the gun, and they'll really not do a good job of unloading the gun, not do a very poor job, an insufficient job when doing that. Now, kind of like loading unloading a handgun, you're doing a couple different things with your hands at the same time. So what I'm gonna do with this hand right here is my left hand, that is, I'm going to take this hand, I'm going to wrap it into the magazine well, and that's going to allow me to depress on the bolt hold open tab. That's this little tiny tab that's right here, okay? Now as I depress that little tab right here, I'm going to make a C-clamp. With this arm here, I'm going to anchor the buttstock into my shoulder, and that secures the gun, and it eliminates this buffer tube for me from wrestling around with the buffer tube. Next thing I'll do is I'll take these two fingers right here, my index finger and my middle finger, I'll make hooks out of them. I'll reach up and I'll pull the bolt carrier or the charging handle straight back, and I'll press down on the bolt hold open tab, okay? Now, lucky for me, I was able to see that round come out of here, see it bounce, it actually hit my foot, so I felt it at the same time, and I'm 99.9% sure that the gun is unloaded, okay? However, I'm not gonna make any assumptions. What I'm gonna do next is I'm gonna check the gun visually, right? And I'm gonna even go so far as to reach up in here and check the gun physically, okay, and make sure that gun is clear. And if you really want to be, I don't want to say careful, but if you really want to work on this, what you can do is actually, when you're training somebody or you're training yourself, you can put a dummy cartridge down in there and stick your finger up in there and realize that you can get to there and you can touch that, if your finger's small enough, and you can feel that there is a cartridge base that's in there, okay? So those are some of the precautions that you can take, and to make sure that the gun is unloaded. So don't make any assumptions. A lot of owner's manuals and firearms advisors will tell you treat every gun as if it's loaded. And yes, I agree with that. You don't want to point a loaded firearm at anybody or destroy or hurt anybody that you're not willing to hurt, right? But at the same time, I want you to have the confidence and the skill set to know the condition of the firearm and not assume the condition of the firearm. I hope that makes perfect sense for you, you know. And all these things, they just require skill sets. It all requires putting some sweat equity into your technique and, you know, some training time and, you know, whatnot. Get these dummy rounds. I love these little guys. They take the place of a live cartridge. They have a little rubber device here that allows for the strikers or firing pins to hit that area right there and not cause any damage to them. And like I say, I think that they're just a good tool. You get to see how that gun operates with these with the dummy cartridges and whatnot. Okay, so that's basically it for now. It's Scott and John from T is for Tactical. If you have any questions specifically about what we talked about today, let me know. I'd love to talk to you more about them. If you have any comments or you want any additional information about how the rifle is set up, what we do with our firearms, you know, or how we handle them or anything like that, please reach out to us and I'll help you out as best as we can. Okay? All right. Next time we'll have some more topics for you. We'll see you soon. Take care.